Lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
We're off and we're rolling. Rolling right into the weekend here on Locked In. Eager to touch base with all of you on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439 throughout the show. This hour here on the Ref brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Family owned and operated. El Reno has excellent onion burgers. We know that much. However, you also got Dorsey Jones GMC out there. And if you don't know, now you know. GMC has some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the market today. So let Dorsey Jones GMC set you up with your next vehicle or service your current one. Half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Go grab one of those tomorrow if you have some margin in your schedule, which you should. I mean, it's a weekend in July. What are we all doing on weekends in July if not chilling out, knocking out requisite errands that happen before football season heats up in the fall, and all of our weekends are consumed by all things gridiron. Again, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We appreciate Dorsey Jones GMC's sponsorship of this hour here on the Ref. And Grayson, I know you got to sit in with Dari this morning. I got to listen to some of it. Excellent work. However,
Appreciate it.
You did not get to discuss the preseason All-SEC teams, nor the conference preseason poll, because those dropped at noon right after you guys got off air. So,
Yeah, they did.
let's start off here by discussing all of the relevant storylines pertinent to the news dump that we got from the SEC at noon. What struck you immediately when you looked at that SEC preseason poll?
How high Tennessee was. And Dari, we talked about this. Dari is higher on Tennessee than I am. But Tennessee at 9 over Oklahoma and Auburn is a little bit wild to me. I don't know anything about their quarterback situation. Well, I do know something about their quarterback situation. I don't like it. That's what I don't know. And they did lose some talent, especially at wide receiver. LSU, to me, if there's some bulletin board material with this preseason poll, it's that LSU is 4. I really think the Tigers might win this thing. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I love what they have at wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I love what they have coming back at running back. Offensive line, they'll figure out how to replace those tackles. Getting Perkins back on defense is big for them. Nussmeier might be QB number 1. I was surprised he wasn't first team All-SEC in the preseason. I was surprised Sellers got that over him. But when I look at LSU at number 4, man, I would have put them number 2. I would have put them number 2, and I'm kind of surprised. I think this could serve as some bulletin board material for them.
Now, when you look at the SEC preseason media poll, and I'm watching the SEC network on the TV here in this studio, and fortunately, it's very timely. They happen to be discussing the preseason poll right now, and they have all of the points laid out as well for each of the 16 teams. And if you're unfamiliar with the point system, basically where each team is projected to finish on each ballot, that gets assigned a certain point value. And so you get to understand not only how each of these teams stack up against one another in the eyes of the media, but what the consensus feeling is amongst those media members based on how many points they total out to between all of the votes cast by media members. So Texas was first. They are the pick to win the league with 3,060 points. It was pretty tight between them and Georgia. Georgia had 2,957 points. And so to give you an idea of scale here, Texas had 3,060 points. I'm pretty sure close to everybody had to have picked Mississippi State to finish last in the conference because Mississippi State was 16th by a mile.
Yeah.
They had 343 points. But when you get down, when you get to the middle tier of the SEC, it's really, really difficult outside of the clear top tier, which to me is Georgia, Texas, LSU, and to a lesser extent Alabama, whom I actually picked to finish 6th because I think they're going to lose the head-to-head to South Carolina, who I had at 4th. When you get to that middle tier of the SEC, I think it's pretty clear that there is a drop-off. And the drop-off happens right after Oklahoma at number 10. Because Oklahoma, and I forget the exact figure now, the graphic is no longer in front of me, but Oklahoma had something, 1,650-something points in the media poll. And then number 11 was Auburn, which had 1,100-something-ish. So pretty steep drop-off from Oklahoma at 10 to Auburn at 11, which would indicate, Grayson, once again, that there is a clear top tier in the conference, there is a pretty clear middle tier in the conference, and there is a clear lower tier in the conference.
And to that point, I do think Auburn's being undervalued just a little bit. I think Auburn has, especially offensively, has some ingredients to where they can be a formidable opponent in the SEC for more people than just Oklahoma. So, look, maybe they do finish below Oklahoma, but I don't think that drop starts with Auburn. Now, I do think it starts after Auburn because Mizzou, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State are not going to be interesting. I don't think – maybe Vanderbilt. Maybe Vanderbilt. We'll see if they can repeat that.
Vanderbilt will have the most juice of those 5 teams.
Vanderbilt, agreed, but Vanderbilt will not finish with any more than 7 wins.
Probably not.
So I think the drop-off starts because I think Auburn is capable of winning 8 games. Do I think they will? Time will tell, but I think they're capable of it. But after them, those other 5, there's 7 wins max for those dudes and 6 wins max for the ones not including Vanderbilt.
Now, is Oklahoma being slept on by the media? I think that's going to become a popular talking point in the aftermath of this poll drop. Well, Oklahoma's being slept on. Number 10 in the SEC, give me a break. I actually, and again, I had Oklahoma at 7. I had them higher. But I think that's fair, and I don't think if Oklahoma's being slept on, it's not by an obscene margin because you got to keep in mind that last year, half the SEC was 9-4 or better. South Carolina finished 8th in the SEC at 9-4. So this is a really freaking talented league. And as we have discussed ad nauseum throughout the offseason, it is the type of league where if you so much as play your B game instead of your A game every Saturday, pretty much anybody in this league outside of Mississippi State can beat you. Man, and I hate it for Jeff Lebby, but I think he's going to have a rough year at Mississippi State.
I don't disagree with you.
Oh, man. I don't like that team at all on paper.
Going back to the Oklahoma point of all of this, if you look at, you have them at 7. I have no idea who you have ahead of them, but Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, we can all agree are ahead of Oklahoma.
Correct.
A&M, I think, is gaining steam.
Yep, I have them at number 5.
Okay. And then, do you want to put Florida in front of them? Okay, that leaves Oklahoma at 7. Do you want to put Ole Miss ahead of them? I wouldn't, but that would leave Oklahoma at 7. So I think 7 is kind of that sweet spot. I'd say 6 to 8, 6 to 10, or 6 to 9 is pretty much where you can throw Oklahoma in that fray along with Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Florida. I think Oklahoma is going to be better than Tennessee. Now, will they win that game in Knoxville? The operative word there is Knoxville, where the game is being played.
Yes.
So that might throw a wrench into all of that, but I do have the Sooners higher than the Volunteers. But outside of those top 4, man, it is a crapshoot. And that's why this season is going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Pretty much, man. And my feeling throughout the offseason has been, well, the clear top tier in the SEC is Georgia, LSU, Texas, and Alabama. And then I was sitting there at SEC Media Days on Wednesday casting my ballot, and I realized, you know what? No, I think South Carolina is going to beat Alabama at home in October. South Carolina's therefore my number 4. I think Texas A&M, Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida, and Ole Miss, that group of 5 teams, I feel virtually the same about any and all of them, which is if they have a couple fortunate breaks that go their way throughout the season, they could be in the mix for a college football playoff berth. If they have a couple unfortunate breaks go their way throughout the season, they could be one of the more powerful 7-5 teams in the country.
That is a fantastic way of putting that. Because, I mean, the top 4 we think are going to be the cream of the crop. Everybody else, it's which direction does the ball flip?
Pretty much. And there are going to be some really good teams in the SEC that would go 10-2, 11-1 in other conferences that are going to wind up going 7-5. Oklahoma could be one of them. A 918 listener says, again, if OU is 7th in the SEC with this current roster, BV will not be the head coach next year. Okay, well, I will go back once again here to the example of 2024. Do you know who finished 7th in the SEC in 2024? LSU did at 9-4.
Which is so wild to think of.
If Oklahoma goes 9-4, I can guarantee you I would be willing to bet my entire savings account, my entire Roth IRA, my mortgage on Brent Venables returning in 2026 if the Sooners go 9-4. It's it's not even a question. Brent Venables is 1,000% safe if Oklahoma goes 9-4. If you go any worse than 9-4, though, you're probably like 8th, 9th, even 10th in the conference.
This goes back to a sentiment that I had within my first month at this station, and that is that you're in the SEC now. The way you gauge literally everything has to change. Finishing 7th or 8th in the Big 12, yeah, that's probably a cause for concern.
Yeah, you're like 5-7.
Exactly. But if you're finishing 7th, 8th in this conference, a lot of what could be done just via tiebreaker, falling on the wrong side of that, and God knows how many teams will finish with your same record, so how those will be determined, it would still be a pretty good season, even if it could be. It could be a pretty good season, even if you land 7th or 8th in the conference. That's just life in the SEC.
Kyle from Southside says, come on, Grayson, we're in the SEC now. It's Knoxville, not Knoxville.
Yeah, if you guys haven't realized that, I don't talk like that.
I got to start working on that SEC dialect. Get some inflection lessons from Tyler McComas.
I think
he does it very well.
I can say Missouri. I can pull the Teddy Lehman Missouri off, but Knoxville, that just doesn't sound natural coming out of my mouth.
Brent Venables waffles on that one. Sometimes he'll say Missouri, sometimes he'll say Missouri.
I just stick with Mizzou, honestly. I can't remember the last time.
Keep it 2 syllables, nice and spittable.
I can't remember the last time that I said the full name of that state when I'm referencing the school.
Your take on LSU was correct, I think. I have them finishing 2nd in my poll. I have them losing the SEC championship game to Georgia. And the reason being is because that offense has so many exciting pieces.
Mm-hmm.
An experienced quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier as the trigger man, but Caden Durham in the backfield, Chris Hilton at wide receiver, Aaron Anderson at wide receiver, and I was looking through the ballot and I realized, they got Barryon Brown too.
You just now realized they got Barryon Brown from Kentucky?
I mean, I knew that. I'd forgotten it. I was like, shoot.
And by the way, let's just throw in Nick Anderson.
Also that guy. Bauer Sharp. Bauer Sharp is on that team too.
Look, LSU has used their tight ends in recent years pretty well.
Yes, they have. And we know Bauer Sharp is athletic. And Brent Venables had no reason to say this on Wednesday, but he brought it up anyway. He said, a lot of people in the Oklahoma sphere thought Bauer Sharp was a bad football player last year. He wasn't. He played pretty dang well, and he was one of our better leaders. You're going to see what type of season he'll have this year at LSU. Unprompted by Brent Venables. So, clearly, the folks that saw him every single freaking day during the 10 months that he was on campus in Norman did not think he was that bad.
I will say this about LSU. If they were not replacing their left tackle, I may have them number 1. That offensive line is something I'm going to have to see for a couple weeks. But given what you just laid out about all their receivers that they have, and the quarterback coming back, and I love that I have Harold Perkins back, who's coming off of injury too. That's probably the reason he's back.
Mojo Eraser says, Bauer Sharp sucks. He never blocked. Well, I doubt LSU is going to be asking him to block as much as Oklahoma did last year. Certainly they will not be asking him to block Dylan Stewart one-on-one the way Oklahoma did at one point last year. What did you think of No John Mateer on the SEC preseason team?
So it was Lenore Sellers 1, Garrett Nussmeier, then Arch Manning. I can't complain. The highest I could see him going was 3, is on the third team. But he wasn't going to be ahead of Lenore Sellers, and he wasn't going to be ahead of Garrett Nussmeier.
No, and I actually had Nuss first team, and I had Sellers second team.
I would have too.
Those feel like the very clear top 2, and it's going into the season. It's more of a competition for who's number 3, who emerges as that third horse in the race for the distinction of being the best signal caller in the SEC. Is it Arch Manning? Is it DJ Lagway at Florida? Is it John Mateer? Could it be somebody like Austin Simmons at Ole Miss? Might it be Ty Simpson at Alabama, who has had to wait his turn and is now entering his 4th season at the program, but is finally getting his shot to be the starter for the Crimson Tide? A lot of different directions that would go, but I think the message seemingly from the SEC media to John Mateer in leaving him off of the preseason All-SEC teams is, hey, we think highly of you, but you have to go prove it first. Mm-hmm. And I think that's completely fair. Garrett Nussmeier has proven that he can play at a high level in the SEC. Lenore Sellers has proven that he can play at a high level in the SEC. And you're not shaking the Arch hype. And quite frankly, as I have said before several times already this week, Arch doesn't even really need to be that good in 2025 because he plays in Steve Sarkisian's system. He's going to produce. He's going to put up numbers. Quinn Ewers did it. Arch Manning sure as hell can do it.
And that defense, I think, if there is any time that Arch is going to need to acclimate himself into the starting role, that defense, which is going to be terrifying, will buy him that time. For sure. Forced Arcadum in the 918 with a hilarious text. We need to start viewing it like the NFL, where every team is capable of beating you if you don't show up to play. Ask Bama about it. That excites me as a fan, knowing we could go anywhere from 4-8 to 11-1. Love it.
I think it should excite you because, I genuinely think, especially towards the end of the Big 12 era of Oklahoma football, especially in the Lincoln Riley years, the OU football faithful kind of lost the same appreciation for regular season football because you just expected Oklahoma to go in and win, regardless of who they lined up against. And, yeah, there'd be one upset loss per year, it felt like, and everybody would be pissed about it. But for the most part, it was, well, we'll see what kind of team Oklahoma actually has once the Big 12 championship game rolls around. Or once the first round of the college football playoff rolls around. Now, guess what? We don't even have to wait till Auburn comes to town on September 20th. We're actually going to find out what kind of team Oklahoma actually has when Michigan shows up in week 2. But we will know exactly what type of team Oklahoma is in 2025 by the midpoint of the season.
Yes.
Because you will have to play Michigan, you will have to play Auburn, and, of course, you will have to play Texas, and that ain't your daddy's Texas anymore.
By the way, speaking of Texas, how did your conversation with Drum go?
There were several texters on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line that expressed some ire at the fact that he picked Texas to win the league. But a lot of people picked Texas to win the league.
It seems like he was one of a lot.
Texas had more than twice as many votes as any other team to win the SEC. So, hey, it's fair. It's how it goes. You make the college football playoff 2 years in a row. You wind up in the Final Four, if you will, 2 years in a row. The way that the majority of the country is going to regard your football program is, hey, until somebody knocks you off the pedestal, we're going to keep you on it with our prognostications. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll discuss more news coming out of SEC Media Days. The all-SEC preseason teams. We'll dig into some recruiting, and, of course, we'll get to many more of your texts on the other side. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Keep it here.
Coach Stoops here for Van Hoos Fence. If you want to work with the best local fence company and get championship service, contact my friend Mark and the Van Hoos Fence team. Van Hoos Fence gives each customer the most professional craftsmanship and competitive pricing in Oklahoma. From wood to chain link to vinyl to metal fences, the Van Hoos Fence team does it all. Contact the Fencing All-Americans at Van Hoos Fence, 405-735-1167 or vhfence.com.
Your dream home is right around the corner, and at Stride Bank, we're here to make it a reality. With competitive rates, personalized service, and streamlined processes, buying your first home or your forever home has never been easier. Let Stride's experienced mortgage team guide you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to closing. With local roots and national reach, Stride Bank is your go-to partner for all your banking needs. Stride Bank, your trusted financial partner since 1913. Find out more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The City of Norman encourages you to shop small this summer. What better place to eat, shop, and play local than historic Main Street in downtown Norman? With over 65 years of experience, Mr. Robert Fine Furniture and Design stands for quality. Family owned in the heart of Norman, their exquisite showroom is filled with unique items from around the globe. The historic Sooner Theater is a summer staple and a must-see downtown. See great local theater, concerts, or attend performing arts classes. Find upcoming events and tickets at SoonerTheater.org. Visit Oklahoma's premier art gallery specializing in Native American, Oklahoman, and Western art. Find original art, pottery, jewelry, made in Oklahoma products, and so much more at Tribes Gallery on Main Street in the heart of Norman. Join the City of Norman and keep it local this summer when you eat, shop, and play in downtown Norman.
So you want to create your future, discover a path worth traveling down, find a career to get excited about. For decades, Moore Norman Tech has been training talented, skilled individuals, empowering them to step into a career that fuels not only their life, but the Oklahoma workforce. These individuals are the heartbeat of this state's economy. Individuals just like you. Create your future today at Moore Norman Tech.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Mathew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
I'm Gina Mitchell of Mitchell's Jewelry. We take our tagline, where Oklahoma gets engaged, to heart. Engagement rings, so many different styles and price ranges. We even have rings that are ready for a proposal this weekend. However, if a custom, one-of-a-kind design is your style, that's our specialty. Natural diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, or colored gems. Let us create her dream ring. Stay in the loop with us on our socials or at mitchells-jewelry.com, or come see us at 2201 West Main in Norman.
At Confidence Ford of Norman, we want to help you heat up your summer at the Ford Summer Sales Event. Come in and save up to $14,000 on new 2024 Ford Bronco models. That's not all. We've also got an amazing 2024 model year closeout sale on various Ford models, and you can save thousands. Stop by and let our family take care of yours. Conveniently located at 825 North Interstate Drive. Confidence Ford of Norman, part of the Cavender Auto family, where confidence is Cavender.
Oh, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line here on Locked In. This is the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune, Grayson, Singleton. I feel like this take in particular from Willie Mays Hayes has been echoed by so many fans over the last year and a half or so. Standards don't change just because you joined the SEC. You're right, the standards don't change. However, I think there are many folks that are inclined to conflate, whether willingly or unwillingly, they conflate standards with results. The standard at Oklahoma is to compete for championships. The standard at Oklahoma is to field a team that can compete for championships. And, well, Grayson, there's really no doubt about it. If you're playing in today's SEC and you go 9-3, you have a football team that can compete for a championship. Maybe not win a championship, but for instance, you had Alabama last year at 9-3. They're in the college football playoff. Perhaps even if, not if they don't lose to Oklahoma, but if they don't lose to Oklahoma in the fashion to which they lost to Oklahoma, they're in the playoff at 9-3.
And that includes a loss to Vanderbilt, by the way.
Correct. If you go 9-3 in the SEC, odds are you have a championship caliber team. If you go 9-3, or if you went 9-3 in the old Big 12, you know what you were? Kansas State.
Yeah.
And nobody would have ever confused Kansas State for a national championship contender. So you're right. The standards don't change. However, that doesn't mean the expectations when it comes to wins and losses, and more broadly, results, shouldn't change. Because it should. You're not going to go 11-1 every single year in the SEC, like Oklahoma did for so many years in the Big 12. That's simply not a realistic expectation. But again, if you can manage to go 9-3, even 10-2, yeah, there will be years. It happens for Oklahoma. It happens for everybody cyclically. It happens for everybody. Well, you'll have a team that pops off and goes 11-1, even 12-0 in the SEC. Infrequently, but it'll happen. For the most part, if you can get to the 9-3, 10-2 range, you're going to be in the college football playoff field in today's day and age, and you're going to have the chance to compete for a championship.
The best way to further illustrate that point is to look at what's going on with the debate about automatic qualifiers in a new 16-team college football playoff. There's a reason why the SEC wants as many automatic qualifiers from the conference as it can get, and the Big 12 would have 2. Because the 2 are weighed totally different. Because they are 2 totally different worlds. If you think of it that way, it starts to make a little more sense.
Zane from Shawnee says, if we can stay healthy, we have a real shot at beating Texas. Not living in a sunshine pumper fantasy that a true freshman is going to beat them like last year. Well, I mean, you hope you're not relying on true freshmen pretty much anywhere by the time the Texas game rolls around. There were a lot of true freshmen on the field when Oklahoma played that game a season ago, and it did not go terribly well for the Sooners. But, yes, Oklahoma absolutely has a real shot at beating Texas. They're not going to stay 100% healthy. Nobody will. But as long as that's a team that's mostly healthy going into the Cotton Bowl, I think there will be plenty of belief that Oklahoma can go toe-to-toe with and even beat the Sooners. A 405 listener asks, who are the starting 5 offensive linemen at the start of the season? Who are the 5 offensive linemen against LSU? I don't know who the 5 starting offensive linemen against LSU are. I mean, you almost have to predict injuries at that point.
I think he's trying to juxtapose what it would look like in week 1 and how many do you think he's going to be able to get to the finish line? Kind of in that question of the season might go as that offensive line stays healthy.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the genesis of that question.
I mean, the hope and the expectation is that your starting offensive line in week 1 is your starting offensive line in week 13 because continuity is to be desired, especially up front. I believe as of right now, your starters for Oklahoma at each of the 5 offensive line positions will be as follows. Jake Sexton at left tackle, Eddie Pierre-Louis at left guard, Jake Michaela at center, Fabechi Wiwu at right guard, and Derek Simmons at right tackle. That's my expectation. There will be battles, especially at center and left guard. But if you ask me right now who your starting 5 are up front, that's who I'm going with.
So, EPL over Heath Ozaida.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that EPL was quite literally the first name that Brent Venables mentioned when he was asked about newcomers.
That's a good point.
Or youngsters on Wednesday at SEC Media Days that are going to play a lot. I think that speaks highly for what Oklahoma believes Eddie Pierre-Louis is capable of. And I also just think he may have the highest athletic upside, save for Michael Fasusi, on the entire offensive line. He's a specimen. In a different way than Fasusi, who is long and limber and muscular, and, he's an offensive tackle. Isaiah Autry-Dent is another great example of a really high-ceiling offensive tackle. EPL's a guard who's about 6'2", 6'3". But, man, his mobility and his strength at that size, the quickness of his feet, they're going to make him a very, very special player. potentially as soon as 2025 at Oklahoma. A 405 listener asks, I think the text was implying that Fasusi and Foje might pull a Caden Green. I guess insinuating that there's a world in which Fasusi and or Foje seizes a starting job mid-season. I mean, again, you have to have somebody, well, for lack of a better descriptor, somebody has to lose that job first. Because that was what happened for Troy Everett in 2023. That was the reason Caden Green wound up starting the final 5 games of the regular season for Oklahoma at guard. It was because Troy Everett was getting manhandled by Devondre Sweat. And look, Troy Everett probably wasn't an ideal specimen at that point in time, coming off an injury at guard for OU. He wound up settling in at center. He was down a lot of weight at that point. It wasn't necessarily, his performance at that point wasn't necessarily indicative of the type of player that Troy Everett is. But the Sooners turned to Caden Green for lack of an alternative, for lack of a viable alternative. You hope that doesn't happen with Fasusi or Foje. What you hope is that those guys can step into the starting lineup on their own timetables, not out of necessity, but when they're ready and when the situation demands, they're ready to go.
832 Mike says, how is Weewoo the starter after getting manhandled every game? Why would we not put EPL there?
Fabechi Weewoo was not manhandled every game last year.
Fabechi was one of the more consistent players on the line last year.
Did he play elite football last year? No, but who did? Genuinely, who did?
Offensively.
Yeah. Last year at Oklahoma, Fabechi Weewoo was like, he might have actually been the only consistent, truly consistent contributor start to finish last season for Oklahoma on that side of the football. Cite me a position outside of right guard where it wasn't a revolving door. I guess tight end, too, like him and Bauer Sharp. And I'm hesitant to even go there because I know what the text line thinks of Bauer Sharp.
I was about to say, I don't know if that's going to make the people feel any better.
Oh, man, everybody coming in with team questions, which is good, and I'm glad we have SEC Media Days directly in the rearview mirror because, well, there's just not a whole lot going on in recruiting right now. We're just waiting on Davian Gross, waiting on T-Ron Richardson, waiting on Elijah Golden. It's kind of hurry up and wait. A holding pattern. Justin, formerly Yoda, says, I think he was thinking of Spencer Brown. Yeah, you want to talk about a guy that did get manhandled every single time he was on the field, with the bizarre exception of the Alabama game last year. Spencer Brown.
Everything about that game was a bizarre exception. They figured out how to run the ball. I mean, they look like the greatest show on turf running the ball in that game, which was wild.
A 918 listener says, Caden Green took over for Savion Byrd at left guard in 2023. Caden Green did not take over for Troy Everett. No, he took over for Troy Everett. That is what happened. I can't recall. Savion Byrd, he may have played perhaps even started briefly early in that campaign. But no, Troy Everett was the Sooners starting left guard in the Texas game, and it was he that was pulled in favor of Caden Green. That's how it went down. 832 Mike says, you are correct, it was Brown. Okay, there you go. There you go. He had Fabechi Weewoo mixed up with Spencer Brown. Yeah, fortunately, Spencer Brown is and was not eligible to return to Oklahoma in 2025.
A texter in the 405 says, how worried should we be on recruiting since you brought it up?
Oh, my gosh. Can we save this conversation? Can we bookmark this conversation, earmark it for another time? No one should be worried about recruiting. I've outlined all of the reasons why repeatedly on this show over the last several weeks. And once Davian Gross decides, which should be in favor of Oklahoma, like, okay, you want to talk about real concern. There will be real concern for me if Davian Gross does not wind up at the University of Oklahoma. So let me answer that question once we know where Davian Gross is headed to play his college football. Because if it's Oklahoma, there is really not that much reason to be worried about Oklahoma's 2026 class. If he chooses Florida or Baylor or any other school besides OU, then okay, you got problems. Because at that point, Daniel Odom is not only the only receiver you have committed, there aren't any other uncommitted receivers on the board that Oklahoma is actively pushing for. So you are coming up with a plan B at that point. Denver from Indiana wants to know, where is Guillory in the depth chart at cornerback? He is always fascinated with Gentry's injury history, who backs him, and or Eli if they get hurt. Yeah, I think your second-string corners right now, if I had to project it, going into fall camp, it's Jacoby Johnson and Cortland Guillory. It's those two. Bowen and Williams, if healthy, are going to be your starters. But I like Johnson, and I like Cortland Guillory behind him. Be really interesting to see, for me, if Jeremiah Newcomb can build on the strong offseason he's had. Because he has had a strong offseason. Not quite as strong as Cortland Guillory, but he's been good. Davon Jordan, another guy that saw some run last year, didn't redshirt. I think he might have played all 13 games in some capacity or another. But Davon Jordan and Jeremiah Newcomb, two guys that have potential to further solidify that room for Oklahoma if they can take a step forward. Whether they do or not, that remains to be seen. But everybody within is really, really, really high on Cortland Guillory and what he can do immediately. Brent Venables still cannot say his last name, though.
I was just about to bring that up.
He was Cortland Gilroy on signing day. He was Cortland Gilroy at SEC Media Days. So need to pass old BV a memo on that one. But, yeah, he's a stud of a player. And he looks like what an elite cornerback looks like. 6 feet, 183 pounds, still room to pack on muscle as a true freshman. He's not a completely finished product, but from an athletic and a technique standpoint, he fits the mold. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you get the upper-class version of Cortland Guillory. I think that could be one of the best corners in the entire country. Okay, 405-651-3439. Loved the interaction so far on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. One final segment of Locked In is on the way. Keep it here on the Ref. Much more to come.
A true Sooner fan wouldn't be caught dead without the KREF app. Join the Army. Get the app. Tell your friends. This is the Ref, where diehard Sooner fans listen.
Beat the heat at Hey Pickle Pickle, Heyday Entertainment's brand new pickleball facility. With 5 indoor courts, Oklahoma summer won't be able to stop you from getting your game on. Learn more at heypicklefun.com, and remember, drink responsibly.
At Armstrong Bank, your business isn't just business to us, it's personal. Our bankers are invested in your success, and we're ready to build a relationship that lasts. You deserve a strong financial partner by your side. Together, we can help make your business even stronger with products and services designed for your convenience. To learn more, visit a location near you or visit armstrong.bank. Armstrong Bank. Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC.
Lake Crest Casino and Hotel is the perfect getaway in Ardmore, Oklahoma, where fun, comfort, and entertainment all come standard. Stay in our luxurious 89-room hotel or treat yourself to our resort-style pool with outside bar, enjoy fine dining in our restaurant, or try your luck in our casino. The Oasis Boutique offers something for everyone. Plan your next getaway at Ardmore's newest destination for luxury, excitement, and unforgettable fun at lakecrestcasino.com or call 580-222-2910.
Hi, folks. This is Larry Knippelmeyer here at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, USA. Conveniently located just 15 minutes south of Oklahoma City and 10 minutes west of Norman. With all the talk of inflation, market crashes, and tariffs, it's no wonder we're all afraid to make that new vehicle purchase. Now, with that being said, there will probably never be a better time to purchase your new Chevrolet at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet. No price increase or tariffs on our huge selection of in-stock vehicles. Pickups, SUVs, cars, and even Corvettes, all marked down and ready to sell. Interest rates are good, used vehicle trade-ins are high, and rebates and incentives are back on most new Chevrolets. So hop in that old vehicle and come see us at Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, where nobody beats our deal. Or give us a call at 405-485-3333 or catch us on the web at knippelmeyer.com. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Whether it's yesterday, today, or tomorrow, no one covers the Sooners like we do. From the voice of the Sooners on The Rush every day for the triple option.
We've landed on the triple option, and I'm excited.
To the Plank Show, taking over your morning drive from 6 to 9.
Every single radio person, what they want to do is they want to do a morning show.
And the addition of Darinoka from 9 to noon.
The importance of sports in the SEC, and it's no different at OU. It's a special place to be, man.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Yo, I'm your old basketball. Haven't seen you out on the courts in a while. Why not pass me over to Goodwill? Donating me helps Goodwill's mission to provide career training and support services right here in the community. And that's a slam dunk. Donate today. Hey, I got next.
To find your nearest Goodwill locations and to learn more about our mission, please visit goodwill.org. Goodwill, where your things start new lives.
Summer just got better with Heyday Entertainment. Join us for bowling, mini golf, laser tag, and so much more. And check out Hey Pickle Pickle, our brand new pickleball facility. Learn more at heydayfun.com. Heyday, where you choose your fun.
Last segment of Locked In here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Live on 1400 AM, 99.3 FM, the KREF app, of course, and on YouTube, on the KREF Sports YouTube channel. We got quite a few listeners that tune in every day via YouTube. To the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line we go, because I thought this was interesting from Outlaw Devil. Outlaw Devil says, C.J. Vogel from On Texas Football is saying Jake Krell is now a Texas lean. Any truth to this? From where I stand, Outlaw Devil, the answer is no. A Texas lean? No. No. I think 90 to 90% of folks in the recruiting industry that have had any hand in covering the Jake Krell recruitment would tell you if he is leaning anywhere right now, it is Oklahoma. And the majority of those folks would probably tell you he is leaning somewhere right now, and it is Oklahoma. So the only thing that I think is going to derail Oklahoma in their pursuit of Jake Krell is if they don't win this fall. If they struggle, especially early in the season, and you start to get the sense that things aren't going in a favorable direction for Brent Venables in this program, then it'll probably be either Ole Miss or Texas for Jake Krell at that point, because he's not going to commit to a program, nor should guys commit to a program unless they really, really love the program itself. But if you're committing for the staff as opposed to the program, you shouldn't commit to a staff that may or may not have their jobs at the end of the regular season. There are guys that commit to Oklahoma because they love the University of Oklahoma, and regardless of who is coaching at the University of Oklahoma, they just want to be there. There are many others who commit to Oklahoma to play for a specific coach or a specific staff. This is the Caleb Williams, right? Caleb Williams is perhaps the most prominent example of this. Caleb Williams was a guy that was committed to Oklahoma, not for Oklahoma's sake, but for Lincoln Riley's sake. And as soon as Lincoln Riley was gone, Caleb Williams was gone. And so you get both. And that's why it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's one we have had. And I think we had it last week. Where, look, I can promise you that if Oklahoma doesn't win this fall, they will lose several members of their 2026 recruiting class. They won't lose all of them, because some of them will have enough love for the University of Oklahoma itself that they're going to be on board, ride or die with the Sooners, regardless of who is coaching. But there will be guys that drop off because they're no longer certain whether the coach that they are committed to playing for, the coach that they have spent months, even years developing relationships with, is not going to be employed at that particular institution anymore.
Anytime you see Texas, I said this the other day, anytime you see Texas in a battle with you, that's just not to be ignored. Their recent history speaks for itself.
It does.
And the fact that it looks like they're going to go into the 2025 season with the most expensive roster. So they've got the combination of they seem like they're in a really good spot in terms of relevance in the national championship picture, and they're not shy to spend money. So those two combined, you shouldn't look the other way. Even if you are presumed to be leading for a guy, you shouldn't look the other way if the other team in that sentence is Texas.
Slim Brady says, is it true if Texas pushed for Krell, he would already be in their class? Is the insinuation there that Texas is not pushing for Jake Krell? If you're hosting a guy for an official visit in the summer, you're pushing for him. Now, he may not be an absolute, like, no questions asked A1 priority for you because you have to OV other guys beyond the A1 priorities. But Jake Krell, throughout his recruitment, has been an A1 priority for basically everybody, and it's because he's a really freaking good football player. Undeniably, objectively, really good football player. And so Texas has been pushing for Jake Krell. That's the reason they're in the top 3. Ole Miss has been pushing for Jake Krell. That's the reason they're in the top 3. Florida was pushing for Jake Krell. Ohio State was pushing for Jake Krell. But Oklahoma, I think the reason why Oklahoma continues to occupy such strong standing in this recruitment is because Miguel Chavis and the Sooners have been pushing for Jake Krell forever. Almost 2 years now that they have been highly, highly emphasizing the importance of the Jake Krell recruitment and making him one of their absolute top priorities in the 2026 cycle on the defensive side of the ball. So I still like Oklahoma for Jake Krell. That probably won't change. I mean, you never say never in recruiting. That lesson was re-emphasized last weekend with the Jacob Eberhardt saga. But that's probably not changing until or unless Oklahoma falls on its face on the gridiron this fall. Slim Brady says, I just read from someone on the Texas side he wasn't a top priority. Okay. Well, I mean, like, again, if that's the case, and I won't pretend to know exactly what the Texas staff thinks or has thought of Jake Krell, but again, that just speaks to the reality that Oklahoma has a leg up in the relational department over Texas and basically everybody else for Jake Krell because they offered him nearly 2 years ago, and he has always been a major priority. At no point have the Sooners been ho-hum about Jake Krell. KW918 says, anytime we're in a recruiting battle with Texas, Texas A&M, Rutgers, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Illinois, SMU, or Nebraska, it's not to be ignored with how recruiting is going lately. There you go, your token Doom text of the day right there.
Doom text of the day brought to you by nobody.
580 listener says, CJ Vogel is a contributor to the Football Brainiacs. The Sooners side has maintained that OU is the leader for Krell, with Texas being the program to keep an eye on. They've never stated Texas is the leader. Okay, good. I don't keep up with the Football Brainiacs, whoever they may be. But, yeah, OU is the leader for Krell. I would say Ole Miss is actually number 2 right now. But Texas has made up ground. Texas continues to make up ground. That's the case for both Ole Miss and Texas. Like, Ole Miss and Texas would not even have been in Jake Krell's top 5, I think, at the beginning of the calendar year. But they've done a good job closing ground on the Sooners. And Oklahoma, for upwards of a year now, I would say, has been the leader. The big question from here on out is, can you win? Because that's the only scenario in which you're landing that guy.
JW Crunch on the YouTube chat saw you yawning when we were coming back into the segment.
Oh, did he?
That man needs some sleep.
Yeah, I do. I got some good sleep last night. I missed the Wishbone documentary because I got home yesterday after we got off the air, and I took a nap, and I was out for close to 3 hours. But, yeah, I'm still recovering from the grind that was SEC Media Days. What else we got? Gosh, so many texts on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Blake from Owasso says, maybe I missed it. Is it good for the Sooners that Elijah Golden changed his commitment date? Yes, and we talked about that at length on yesterday's show. 4-star defensive lineman Elijah Golden from the state of Florida has pushed his commitment date back from July 6th to August 9th, and Oklahoma is making up ground in that recruitment. Notre Dame for quite a while has been considered the leader. Oklahoma's making the Irish sweat a little bit. So we'll see if that one continues to turn in the Sooners' favor.
Turbin Myers says, shout out Grayson, he's doing the most this week. I have been around a lot this week. It has been a busy week. And he also says, let me sum up the last few years. Facts. We get BV, we get Smitty back, and we've owned Texas. Reality, we are so frustrated and pissed. The above represents NIL. Sark is getting too much credit. They are rich, and we are seeing it.
A 405 listener points out, usually when Texas loses or is losing a recruitment, they say he isn't a top priority. So that's good news. That is 1,000% true. That is the immediate spin whenever Texas loses a recruitment. Well, he wasn't as much of a priority. Sometimes you just get beat. It's okay to admit it. Oklahoma just got beat last weekend for Jacob Eberhardt. Now, there were certain personal circumstances at play in that recruitment.
Would you term that one getting beat or?
I mean, okay, let's pick another example then. You just got beat by SMU for Toa Katoa. That was a guy that Oklahoma really, really wanted.
I was going to go Alger Miles, but I think we're thinking the same thing.
Yep, Alger Miles falls in that category as well. Sometimes you just get beat. It's okay to acknowledge that. A 405 listener asks, what are the percentage odds Davian Gross decides this weekend? Man, that's so hard for me to gauge right now because I and my colleague at Rivals, Sam Spiegelman, we both had received intel that a commitment from Gross was likely before the end of last weekend, and then it didn't happen. And so, look, the kid hasn't talked. He hasn't said anything on the record in almost a month now. And so he's very clearly keeping it on the down low, keeping his whole process on the down low until the decision comes. When the decision comes, I do not know. I would be lying if I said I had a clue right now as to when decision day is going to be for Davian Gross. But I continue to maintain that Oklahoma's in the best spot there.
Let me ask you this, though. Since you have maintained that Oklahoma's in the lead right now for Davian Gross, if he keeps pushing this and pushing this and pushing this back, should that make you as a Sooner fan nervous?
Oh, always.
Okay.
Always.
That was my thinking. Just making sure here.
Yeah, I mean, like that, when you lead for a kid and everybody in the industry concurs that you lead for a certain kid, and then he doesn't make the decision and still hasn't made the decision and is continuing to put off the decision, the arrow can only go in one direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can only start to feel worse about your chances.
Yes.
You remember this phenomenon in the 2024 cycle with Grant Bricks. That kid was this close to committing to Oklahoma in July. And then he waited and waited and waited and continued to wait and took some more in-season visits. And then by November, he was staying home committing to Nebraska. Even Peyton Bowen, right? Like by the end of the Peyton Bowen saga, nobody had any clue what was going to happen. We all thought we did, but what conclusion can you come to when a kid is verbally committed to Notre Dame and yet has visited Oklahoma for literally every single home game throughout the entirety of the football season with his best buddy, Jackson Arnold? The very fact that he hasn't made a final decision on signing day has you antsy and apprehensive. And so, yeah, the longer this lasts with Davian Gross, the more queasy you should feel as an Oklahoma fan. But I'm going to continue to operate as though Oklahoma will land Davian Gross until I receive intel that indicates otherwise. It's still July. It's not like this thing is dragged out forever. If we get to the football season and Davian Gross is still on the open market, then it's going to get real uncomfortable. But hey, we're not in a rush. We do the show every single day, every single weekday, that is, from 2 to 3. Right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. And it's a wrap on today's installment of the show. We will be right back here Monday afternoon to dive into more OU football and recruiting with you here on the program. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. Tyler McComas and Teddy Lehman are next with The Rush. Keep it right here.
Football, you love it.